People told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA.
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 53 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host Gabriel, here with
Adam Casucci.
And today we have Game 2 of the NBA regular season, December 26th, the Toronto Raptors versus the San Antonio Spurs. But before we get into that, as always, we want to say please like and subscribe to the video. We hope you enjoy. And most importantly, leave comments down below. Give us your opinions on these topics and your opinions on the game, what you saw, people did right, wrong. We want to hear your opinions as well. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first player we got to talk about here is Kyle Lowry, our captain. I thought he had a slow start this game. He had 4 assists in the first quarter, though, which was really nice. And I think that he was trying to get his teammates more involved, giving them opportunities to shine. What I noticed specifically was that he tended to take a back seat this game. And I don't know if it's because as he gets older, he knows that his time's going to run out soon, and he wants to shape Fred VanVleet maybe to be the leader and floor general of this team. It seems that he lets Freddie take the rebound and dribble up the court, create the plays, and he tends to more stick in the corner or create some type of off-ball screen matchup. But it's usually that he lets Fred or Pascal take the ball, take it late game, create plays, and he tries to play a lot of off-ball now. And I know second half he picked that up. He tried to get more involved. He was having trouble making shots, though, whether it be open threes, strong drives to the racks, and we weren't getting calls. But he turned around then, but at the beginning he really took a back seat, and I don't know if that's something we're gonna have to become accustomed to, maybe for the rest of the season because he's transitioning to that role. But I don't know, it was interesting to see, and it's not the Kyle that I'm used to at least. But it was also partially due to he had some foul trouble and he wasn't being aggressive at all, and he was kind of offloading that scoring. But in the end, he did end with 16 points, 10 dimes, 6 for 15 shooting. And he missed a possible wide open game winner, that mid range there. That kind of took us by surprise that he missed that one. But it was a tricky scenario. I don't think he really thought he was open because he did a little bit of a hesitation and he realized no one's in front of me, that defender left. I have an open shot, and I don't think he was expecting it. Maybe the pressure got to him in that quick instance, and he ended up shooting short. That's something you're gonna have to live with, though. Obviously, missing a game-winning shot, it happens. It was more about the other performances in the night that caused the game to spiral out of control to the point where we were put in a tough scenario where we were fighting back to make a basket to tie the game or to win the game when we should have been ahead from the very beginning. That's pretty much what I noticed from Kyle. Adam?
Yeah, for Kyle, I have a couple things to talk about. First, I wanted to know what Nick Nurse is doing here for the endgame situations, who to give the ball to. And for this one, we did give it to Kyle and then Freddie after. But I don't know who would be the solid first option, Gabe, that you think that the Raptors should give the final shot to in the dying moments.
I like the Fred VanVleet. Honestly, obviously he missed it. It was sad, but he tends to hit big shots like that. And you saw the fourth quarter. We're going to talk about him next, but he was hitting a bunch of big threes, and he hits them when they matter most. He's a clutch player like that. I don't like the shot that Fred took. I don't think Kyle necessarily likes shooting like that. He wouldn't have liked that setup there. He's more of a, either like a catch and shoot or a pull up dribble, but not kind of in the corner the way that Fred had to take that shot. And other players I don't think are capable of making shots like that, especially in the clutch. Even though we do have good shooters like Matt Thomas, I think Fred VanVleet is the go-to guy there. There are other players we're going to talk about that the late game tends to not go really well with, but I understand Kyle and Fred should be the two go-to guys. It's just challenging. We mentioned it last video, not having someone like Serge Ibaka and a set play like the pick and pop that we had going. We don't really have a reliable offensive set of plays in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth where the game gets really tight.
Yeah, and I also noticed when you brought up he wasn't being aggressive enough. I think the San Antonio defense, I think they have a lot of veterans, so I think they did a great job of not biting for any of Lowry's fakes, and Lowry wasn't getting also a lot of calls, and I also want to question the officiating of the game. Nick Nurse wasn't happy at the end of the game, cussing to the officials as we saw him storm off the court. The officiating was very poor, I thought, and they were giving the benefit of the doubt to Coach Pop and the Spurs. And I do understand that the Spurs have great drawing foul ability with DeRozan, Aldridge, and Gay being all very slick and crafty players. But I think Kyle did an okay job overall, and he set up a lot of players. They just didn't finish their shots, in my opinion.
Yeah, DeRozan definitely is a guy that's good at doing that, drawing calls, getting defenders to bite or jump. He's good at that. And I thought, like you said, refs were really going against us on some of our hard drives. We were struggling to get calls, whether it be from Fred, from Kyle, for Pascal. It felt like we weren't getting drawn a lot of calls, and it was obviously took a toll on our gameplay. Talk about Fred. He had a solid first quarter, 6 points, 3 assists, and I think in the second quarter as well, he tried his best on both ends to keep this team in the running as the game was kind of spiraling out of control in the second and the third. The problem was that the whole team was just moving so much slower and making more mistakes. On the defensive end, we were just so slow, late to everything, getting blown by on drives, and it was just the Spurs were just easy driving kicks and always finding the open man to hit a shot. It felt like we were just like always a half a second late, and everyone was just moving so much slower. But in the second half, Fred absolutely turned up. He played phenomenally on both ends. He hit many big three-pointers. He ended with 27 points, 9 assists, 5 threes. And if it wasn't for him late game in those big three balls that we know he can clutch up with in his steady Freddie fashion, we definitely would have been out of this game a lot earlier than expected.
Yeah, we really went with Fred VanVleet down the stretch. I felt that a lot of the Raptors players were just handing him the ball and kind of saying, go, score the ball and keep us in this game. I honestly really felt like that. And I thought Fred had a great game, obviously having a game high with 27. His playmaking was great this game, making a lot of nice passes. And I think Fred VanVleet had an awesome game. So now moving on to Pascal Ciaco, he had a very solid first quarter, creating for himself and others, not forcing plays, controlling the pace very wisely. He did a great job on the glass as well. He ended the first quarter with 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So a very nice filling up the stat sheet quarter for Pascal Ciaco. And then it was a complete turnaround in the second quarter. He couldn't make a shot, 0 for 5 from 3. He missed every layup or post shot he had, but he did continuously rebound well for the team. In the second half, it was a really poor performance all around for Pascal Ciaco. And I really question if it's his conditioning. I don't know what it is. I really feel like the defenders really are forcing him to shoot the ball from 3 and are backing off, giving him a lot of space. And I really feel that it's really affecting his game because the defenders are already in position when defending him, and he's not getting calls because the defender will beat him to the spot where he wants to go. And I think that's really bothering his offense, and I think that's why he's really struggling, to be honest. But even playmaking, his decisions were very poor, not finding the open man, still going up for those contested inside baskets. And I think it was a very poor game all around for Pascal Ciaco. And I think he needs to slow down even in the late game. I think he was just rushing way too much, driving to the rim with no control, not knowing what he's going to do with the ball, just driving to the rim trying to create. And I think his pace is kind of hurting him now. It's almost becoming like the faster you go, almost the worse you're playing. And I think that was an issue.
The performance he had honestly is like baffling to me because the first quarter looked so well, like he just played so well. The rebounding was fantastic. I think he was using a lot of his energy on that end, probably because we've been hurt from it in the past, and he just had his hand on everything. He was passing, setting up guys, being calm. He controlled that pace in the first quarter. He would rush up the floor to keep tempo high, keep the transition going, but then once he got into the post, he'd slow it down and look around and who do I pass to? What's the best play here? And he made a couple of his own shots. But then in the second, third, and fourth, it was just a complete turnaround. The pace was more of a problem at the end, like you said. I think that's a fourth quarter problem, is that he keeps pace high and he tries to attack the basket quick in order to blow by guys, but then he loses the ball. People poke it off and he gets double teamed. He just goes straight at someone and doesn't realize that someone's wide open in the corner. There was a play, I think, when Kyle was wide open in the corner. He went up for a crappy post hook. So that's where it affects him the most. And the turnaround is just like mind-boggling because I noticed that when he's hot, he's hot. He makes his shots, he's hitting 3 after 3, but when he's cold, he just becomes freezing cold and he can't make anything. And it's such a drastic turnaround. And this game specifically, what I hated was that the 3-ball was something that we saw in the preseason and first game. He was hitting quite well. Even when he wasn't shooting the mid-range or his layups, he was making other mistakes on the floor. He was actually hitting the 3-ball consistently, which was very surprising and something that I like to see. And then this game was the exact opposite. He went over 5. And he just proved my confidence in him, and at least in that area, completely wrong. And he became inconsistent once again. And I think that's one of his biggest problems is the inconsistency, not only between games, but in each game, each quarter. Between quarters is a problem. And I don't know, he's got to figure that out. I think maybe the pace is a thing he's got to think about and constantly study film on what he's doing wrong in each scenario. And overall, just has to work on his shot making ability because he just missed countless shots. I think he had about 2 points in the second half. So he just really has to step up there.
Yeah, and I just feel that his performance is based on what he's getting paid with the max extension. It's just not adding up. Being the vocal point of the offense, I think it's just very poor from Siakam, and I think his efficiency really needs to be increased for sure, and his shot selection. So Siakam, I really need better performances from him, and hopefully better next game. Moving on to Aaron Baines, he had a great start on the offensive end, attacking the inside, cleaning up plays. He made a 3 and learned from the hesitation the first time he missed. So he did hesitate the first time, and then he knocked down the second one. So he learned from that. Shooting with confidence is always better, going straight up in rhythm. He missed his next 2 3-pointers, both short. And I do think that, kind of like Marcus Sol last year, even if he's not hitting the 3-ball, I still want him to be effective so it doesn't hurt the offense. Even when he's left wide open for 3, either a guard running around him setting a pick, or doing something effective for the offense so it's not really like a liability. But I think he will work on that. Obviously, being new to the team, it'll always take some time. The paint was wide open in the second quarter. A LaMarcus Aldridge double team scheme was creating problems, so I think Nurse was fearful of one-on-one with Baines and LaMarcus Aldridge, which I did think he did well when it was one-on-one. So I'm questioning Nurse's double scheme there, because LaMarcus Aldridge is a veteran. He's a great passer. He understands to hit the open man, and he's very unselfish. Plays great Spurs basketball. So I think that was a very questionable call by Nick Nurse there. But yeah, Baines, he made some buckets on the inside. He did his part. I want to see more performances like this from Aaron Baines. He was very lively. And I thought it was a great performance overall. Gabe?
Yeah, he got outshined a little bit by Boucher, and that caused him to sit a lot of the second half. But when he was on, I thought he had a very solid performance. There's obviously a point in the preseason where we were expecting to not see the center that we were promised or something like that. But I thought he played a quite solid game in terms of rebounding the ball, contesting shots, and his offense was actually really well done in terms of finishing up plays, cleaning up baskets, whether it be a putback or someone like OG or Pascal would drive, he'd get in the right position, set himself up to make an easy basket layup. I thought he did really well in terms of that, and it helped us out because when we have a lot of guys that like to, I don't want to say always force, but most of the time forcing drives, Norm, OG, Pascal, it's good to have someone there to clean up or be able to hand it off to and create a nice play. So I think he did a good job at that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Moving on to OG Anunoby, a little spark at the very end of the quarter, but before that it was practically non-existent, very invisible, to be honest, in quarter one. And he wasn't being an offensive contributor on the floor. He did hit 2 threes in the second half, but still played a small role in this game. So he really did not really show. He kind of went ghost mode for the game, and I really feel like we're putting a lot of pressure on OG. But that pressure, I think he really needs to understand that he's the one that's got to make it work. A lot of people are blaming Nick Nurse for not getting him involved in a lot of actions, and I think it's OG that's got to want the offense. He's got to want the ball. He's got to want to create more. He's got to be more creative, and instead of levitating to the corner, kind of move up the arc and try to get to the top of the arc with the ball and be in more play actions. Because I think he's way more, once again, than the 3-and-D guy that we always think he is. So I want to see more from OG. Shooting the ball, it's got to be better. He had a bunch of wide open threes that, once again, he looks like he's almost chucking it up. And there's not too much legs on his shot, so I want to see him get more down in his stance when shooting. and just be more confident. Don't hesitate. He hesitated multiple times. Once again, shoot the ball. OG is a great shooter historically and always will be. I think he just needs to keep on shooting the basketball without hesitation, and he will be okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it is due to maybe lack of play set up, like we're saying with the Nurse situation, but I feel like it's just you have to be able to just play your part because not every player on a team can be a star player, and maybe we're overlooking it a little bit because it's our team and we think very highly of some of these players and we think that they can do great things, but some players are just meant to stick to their role, whether it be 3-and-D, then maybe that's the position Nurse is going to want him to stay in, and if he has to stay in that box, you at least have to play that part well and maybe show that you can do other things on your own. And just when you have the opportunity, you have to take it. So he has to make his shots, got to be confident in his 3-ball, make the shot when it matters, and work on those cuts, the backdoors, the inside game. He's very strong when he's backing down defenders, so he can set up plays off of that. He just needs to use those things to his advantage and show that he can do stuff because, like we said in the first quarter and even in the second, he just became so quiet and invisible to a point where there was like multiple minutes went by and he didn't show up at all in the stat sheet. He was kind of just sitting on the floor. And we know he's got good defensive ability. We rely on that a little bit, but we're hoping that the offense, obviously he can prove his worth on every night. And players are going to have ups and downs. Every player does. It just feels like sometimes with our team, we're noticing like some huge swings. And I don't know, maybe it's because we're so invested in them that we're noticing them, but I feel like we have so many of those nights where players that we know are good players have great nights and then they have horrible nights. And it's so hard to find a balance and consistency. Yeah,
Gabe, OG, I have one question for you. What was your opinion on Nurse had OG on DeRozan originally, 1v1 obviously on defense. He matched him up with OG on DeMar. What do you think with the double team? It was mostly a double team almost every play. Is that kind of playing into DeMar DeRozan's kind of skill set, knowing he's one of the best playmakers honestly in the league, very underrated at that? And honestly, he's getting a lot of assists. I think averaged like 6 assists last season, and I'm sure going to average higher this season. So what do you think of that?
Not only is he a good scorer, but also a great playmaker. And I think that his vision was fantastic this game. I think he's very skillful and very crafty, that he can either get out of double teams or pass out of it very well. It looked like whenever he got around the mid-range, we obviously know that he's a fantastic mid-range player, so I think that's when the double teams occurred a lot. But he tended to always find the open guy every play, and it was really hurting us. And I feel like the double team necessarily didn't work. I guess OG was the best matchup due to height. DeRozan is a taller guard, so I understand that that's why we put OG on him. But I feel like OG's frame and his somewhat of his stiffness is more matched to someone like Kawhi than it is DeRozan, who's very crafty and quick. But it looked like we didn't have a stop for DeRozan tonight, so I don't even know who would have worked best on him.
Yeah, I think we really played to his ability, and I think it was the wrong call once again from Nick Nurse. But yeah.
Okay, so not gonna go into Norman Powell here. I was like, he honestly is like based off play style as someone that's like decent to guard against DeRozan, but DeRozan was honestly exploiting every matchup he had with Norm too. And in terms of Powell's play, he also struggled immensely as well. It looked like he couldn't do anything on the floor besides a steal in the first quarter. He struggled the rest of the game he was on. 17 minutes of play, he had no points, 0 for 5 shooting. He couldn't make anything, whether it be open or a forced drive. He is struggling immensely right now in this preseason and beginning of the regular season, and I really hope he turns this one around because these aren't performances that we want from one of our star bench players. And tonight specifically, I thought it should have been a clear indication at some point in the night that he was having a horrible night and we should have moved to a different player, given Terrence Davis or Malachi Flynn an opportunity in the regular season, because we have not seen much of them yet. Malachi was 1 minute maybe in the last game. I really want to see more minutes from both of them, especially Malachi Flynn. I get TD might be a better body size matchup with Norman Powell, kind of similar in that sense. But I really just was wondering why neither of them stepped on the floor, and we kept our roster so tight this game when clearly there was a lot of players on the floor who weren't performing that well. And during the second and third quarter specifically, when the game was getting out of hand and we were playing really horribly, you could have put one of them in to just see how they switched up the dynamic instead of riding it out with your original cast and starters / 6th, 7th man and then seeing how if they can turn it around.
Yeah, I think with Norm here, I just think he's trying to make too much of a big impact at one time. I feel like he's trying to get that big game in, and I feel like he's just, if his three ball isn't falling, he's rushing to the rim, trying to get a foul and one, and he's just almost putting layups up. Like, the contested layups he shot last game was very disappointing. I thought when being in that position, he would either kick out. And we know that Nurse loves when Norm passes the ball, he play makes, and it brings another dimension to his game. And we got to see him do that more. I mean, when he drives, it usually attracts two people because he's a very big body. He can finish at the rim. Right. And and I think he just needs to make that extra pass, even if it's not the guy who he passes to that's scoring the ball, just to move the ball, circulate it, and get the offense running. Because it's a great start when Norm drives, but he usually just goes up for that layup, and sometimes, most of the time, it's not the end result that we want, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, on to Matt Thomas. We thought he had a lot better defense in the first quarter. His pump fake and drive to the net was working. He created play for OG there. And I thought he was playing well overall in the first half. He found space for his shot. He utilized hesitations, step backs. He had that step back three in the corner. To get his three ball open. He had 8 points and an assist by halftime, and we thought to start he was playing fantastic, and he wasn't even getting all the minutes that he deserved based off of that first half performance. But in the second half, maybe the time he was resting, he got quite cold because after that he couldn't hit shots, open threes, leaning middies, floaters. He just didn't make much of his shots second half, and he ended up 3 for 8 shooting, and it was a disappointing end from what we saw in the first quarter. I was disappointed by how his performance in the second half showed.
Yeah, once again, I think he did get cold. I think sitting on the bench for a while, I think it just does that to you. And once again, I think it plays into your point about the Nick Nurse's rotation, how it needs to expand, and more minutes need to be given to different guys. I feel like that's the best way to go here. And Matt Thomas just kind of fell apart second half after playing that great first half he had. And just couldn't hit the shots that he was supposed to honestly make. He comes in to shoot the ball at a high rate, and it just didn't fall. So once again, Matt Thomas, just I think he needs honestly more minutes, but a poor end into the game.
Yeah. All right, Bembry will do quickly here. We only played 5 minutes, so it's not much to say about him. But he did attack the basket a little bit, helped to create some plays. Didn't have the biggest impact, but obviously didn't touch the floor for much minutes either. I think he just came on around the second quarter, played 5 minutes, and then didn't go on the floor since. And all he did was put up 1 basket in that time.
Yeah, we can't really judge these guys because they're not getting minutes once again.
Yeah.
And from what we've seen from Bembry, he's a hard worker, but yeah, we really haven't seen much of him. Great playmaker and supposedly a good defender. So we got to see more of this. We got to play these guys more. We got to see more of them. Now moving on to Chris Boucher. He had a great first quarter. 1 block, 4-4 shooting, 9 points. He played extremely well on both ends, closing down drives and finishing crafty near the rim in the first quarter. The second quarter he was a bit quiet, couldn't do much this quarter. The Spurs seemed to be making everything, and the paint once again was wide open for easy buckets against us. Wasn't really his fault, just that he was on the floor for that time being, most of the second quarter. And but he did have a strong second half. He turned his performance once again around, putting up tons of blocks and scoring through 3 balls and drives and putbacks, really utilizing all 3 levels of scoring on his offensive side. He ended with 22 points, 10 boards, 7 blocks, and 9 for 13 shooting. I thought he brought great energy to the game. Boucher came in, made an impact. He brings the different dynamic than Baines, which is a great positive for Nick Nurse to have, having 2 different types of centers that do different things. And I think Boucher is growing in front of our eyes. I think once he's given the opportunity and the minutes, I think he performs every time. And he's very efficient with his minutes. He brings everything. When he gets on the floor, you see what he's about. He comes in, shoots a 3 ball. He's always active on the defensive end, and he does his best job. So you always get 100% from him. And I really do think he's really becoming a question for that starting center position for the team.
Yeah. First off, shout out Enzo Minicucci, correspondent. He wanted a shout out for this one. Chris Boucher honestly had a fantastic game, and we're giving our player of the game to him mostly because We know Fred is capable of having such great nights, but Boucher went off this game, 7 blocks. That's absolutely phenomenal. I think I just saw he's the second ever player in history as a non-starter to have a 20, 10, and 7 block night. Honestly, that's just unreal. 7 blocks is a crazy amount. Shot very well too, was efficient, and like you said, did it on all 3 levels. He was hitting the 3 ball efficiently, 3 for 4. He was making layups, driving, pick and roll game, and also cleaning up, which is fantastic. When you have guys like Norm or Pascal forcing up shots or making tough layups and he comes flying in for a putback, it's exactly what we need to get a second chance point and keep the game alive. His energy is honestly fantastic. And my question for you, Adam, is he obviously is putting up a good contention to work his way up to being a starter. So I know obviously we believe in him as a starter and we would like that. But what I'm asking you is, do you think he would be better as a starter, or do you think he would be better as a bench player but playing like Serge Ibaka last season, where he would play more minutes than Marc Gasol just off the bench because of maybe energy or matchup situations? Like, would you be okay with seeing Boucher on the bench as long as he gets a reasonable amount of minutes, like 20 plus a night, like 22, 25?
Yeah, the starting position is honestly, for me, especially, it's just kind of for show. I mean, if you're getting more minutes off the bench, I mean, I do think that the coach is believing in you more. I think it's just to have that starting name. It's kind of cool for the player, but I do think that if he's playing a lot more minutes, I don't mind him being in that backup role. And for sure, he needs to move into maybe 6th or 7th man. Like, that has to be 100% like a positive, and that has to happen for Nick Nurse. He can't be still playing him in that 8th, even 9th role-playing position. It's just impossible. After the performances he's been giving, it's not fair to him at all.
Yep, no, I agree. That's fair. I think the matchups are the only thing I'm worried about when it's like a big, strong center, what they want to do in terms of lineups. But I think that the energy and the minutes is the most important thing. But this game ended 119-114. We are now 0-2. And obviously we took this one kind of sourly, maybe because it was DeMar, maybe it was because of the way we lost and the players, the lack of performances. But then again, it only is the second regular season game. There's still 70 more. And hopefully these two aren't a reflection of how the season will go, because obviously they're not the top contenders of the East or the West. So it will be interesting to see how we fare up against the other top dogs of the team. Boucher was player of the game, like we said. And Adam, do you want to break down the other team's performances quickly?
Okay, so for San Antonio, DeMar had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. A great all-around game for DeMar, also hitting a bunch of 3 balls, which he didn't really hit on the Toronto Raptors and throughout his career, but he really added to in this offseason, which is very impressive. He did end with 10 out of 17 shooting. He always honestly does well against us, makes some tough and crafty baskets. His 3-ball looked really good. Obviously, I mentioned 3 for 4. DeJounte Murray had a triple-double, 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, but didn't shoot the best, but hit some timely baskets. And then finally, Patty Mills. He was kind of the dagger for us, 21 points, 8 for 9 shooting off the bench. And every time he got the ball, he was just making shots. I mean, it would just end up rotating to him, and he would hit the shot. And he had a great game. He put in his work for Coach Pop, and he was a solid option for the Spurs tonight.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. Those are 3 deadly players, and hopefully for now we just need to see more of our team. This is not a good start for us, and I'm honestly, personally, a little bit scared of how this season's going to go based off of the first 2 games. Just kind of seeing how the players have performed, not necessarily the result and the record, but the performances of the players. And yeah, hopefully we can turn it around. Adam, any last comments?
Yeah, I am a bit weary as well. Just looking at these 2 games, it's not what I want to see. And we did kind of have the lead in both games, and I think we just let it go. I mean, we just didn't have intensity at the end of the game, and we weren't making the smart, right basketball decisions when it mattered most, and it really cost us in the end. And we end up 0-2 here after the first 2 games.
Yep. Hopefully we can figure out late game scenarios, kind of grow with some team chemistry, figure out what works for us this season after losing some big pieces. But we'll see what happens. As always, hope you all enjoyed. Like I said at the beginning, like and subscribe. You can check us out on Instagram at Rapzville for NBA News Raptors content. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's us signing out.
Peace.